Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you have enjoyed the first two technical session of today's bank audit seminar for the first timers. And we had covered audit planning, documentation, and LFAR, and advances and direct norms. Now we have come to last stage of today's bank audit seminar. I would like to request chairman to address for 2 minutes.
Yeah, welcome all of you again. In fact, we could not give much of lunch time to a lot of viewers, so extremely sorry for that. And we could not also take questions in the last session. We assured that the next program happening will be able to take all the questions. And the link for download which we have shared, we would request all the viewers to later also see. We'll be updating a lot of materials relating to bank audit, so which you can later use it also. And wish you all a very happy learning. And take benefit of all the sessions which we have planned in the forthcoming days also. Over to you, Pampana.
Thank you, Chairman. And now I request any few announcement by Secretary Abhishek. Over to Abhishek.
Thank you. Sikasa Chairman Pampana was fresher last year. Honorable Chairman of SIRC, Shri C.A. Dungar Jain, the dynamic Chairman hailing from Madurai. We have with us a speaker, Anand P. Jangid, who is joining us from Bangalore, and of course our Sikasa Chairman Pampana has also joined us from Bangalore. I welcome you for this session on bank audit. Many of you would have attended the first two sessions, and as the chairman rightly said, in the last session maybe we are not able to take some questions, but you are aware we are organizing multiple programs, and we have another bank audit program planned, which hopefully we'll be able to cover many of the questions raised then. I'll just quickly, for people who may have missed out my announcements earlier on, I will just refresh your knowledge with what programs we have, and it will be great if you can be part of it. We have many viewers who are joining us from NIRC also. This program is also being shared by NIRC, and so we have a lot of viewers. So anyone who wants to join for our next program can feel free to join. On 27th April, we have CA P.K. Ranganathan speaking on audit in time. It's a need to innovate by auditors. And we also have program scheduled on May 1st on income tax, the impact of penalties. Here T. Bhanushekar is speaking. And on May 2nd, we have an overview of bank audit, where our past president, C. Amarjit Chopra, is speaking, as well as the chairman of the AASB, CAG Shaker Central Council member. It's a program jointly organized between SIRC and the AASB, and it is expected to be a very well-received program. So any questions that you have from the previous session that may have not been covered, you can feel free to ask during the course of that session also. So over to Pampana to MC today's session.
Thank you, Abhishek, for your announcements, and thank you, Chairman DC Jain, for giving me an opportunity to join as a part of the program. And now it's my proud privilege moment to introduce my own friend, P. Anand Jagid, and he's from Bangalore. We both studied together in the Bangalore Institute. And Anand P. Jangid as a chartered accountant and as an information system auditor. And his areas of focus are forensic audit, information system audit, and fraud analytics, blockchain, and for the internal audit function. Before he set up his own practice, Anand was a part of a risk management team of Goldman Sachs, covering a multiple audits across much geography for the different functions in the organization. His areas of specialization were forex audit, DP audits, anti-money laundering, Basel II, BCP, and operational risk. And prior to Goldman Sachs, he was a part of a ES consulting group at Infosys Technologies Limited, Bangalore. Here, he was involved in the development of regulatory compliances framework for various compliances like Sarbanes Auxiliary Act, etc., and was a part of a team developing solutions for Basel II Accord implementation. His responsibilities included working in sync with the project and Infosys Consulting Dallas. He was also been involved in the enterprise risk management, implementation, and IT audit for many international projects at USA and UK, Japan, China. And he is also a visiting faculty for IIM Bangalore, teaching information system audit and fraud analysis. With this brief introduction, I present before you Anand P. Jangid. Sir, this is being a CBS is one of the important areas, aspects to cover in the bank audit. from morning onwards, we have covered thing which is thing we have to audit through system core banking solution, and which is the most important part of the bank audit. I just like to take, because this is the first timers which we are conducting this program. Keep it into mind and cover the basics and other things, sir. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Pampana sir. Thank you very much. And a very good afternoon, everyone. And as Pampana sir said, we studied together, and it's a long way we go. And it's always great to be here with Dungar sir and Abhishek and Pampana. So this is amazing, actually, because what we are discussing today is actually bank audit for first timer, and I am 110% sure a lot of people who are not even first timer would be here for these sessions also. The reason is bank audit is something which is, every time we do, it's something which keeps coming back to us. And, this is really an amazing, area, because every year bank audits are one of the very important part. And I hope, with all the NPAs and other issues which is happening in the banking system, we act as a big deterrent for anything going wrong. Now, I have made a very big presentations for you, which I've uploaded it on DC Jain sir would know that 60 slides. Now 60 slides, the reason I made it up as a huge, I have made it with a perspective in the mind that this is meant for first timer. Because when we discuss, there are a lot of slides which are self-explanatory, which I'm not going to discuss it up. I have just made it up that it will be a reference material for all of you. So friends, I am telling you, first of all, your attending the session is great, because bank audit is an amazing experience. You can ask your seniors and others, and they will tell you one thing that, on a little bit of, humorous note, bank audit is the time when you get treated like, like king. That is the kind of thing which you get. That's almost different thing. You'll just like your first love, you'll never forget your first branch audit, because I still remember during my articleship time, I had my first audit of corporation bank, and the treatment you used to get is like, oh, I thought, okay, this is the reason I should be doing CA. Jokes apart, CBS plays a very important role. I'm sure I was hearing to some of the sessions from the earlier speaker, and they elaborated very well on this. My objective for today's discussion is twofold. The first part is I would like to, as much as possible, clarify to you that what is the role as auditor we should be doing in using the auditing in a CBS environment. And second thing, friends, which is again very, very important, and which I would like you guys to really appreciate, is what are the tools and techniques which we can use as part and parcel of our whole engagement. So that, this is one of the things which I always hear in every bank audit, and I'm sure you hear from your, your seniors and others. That point is like this: oh, we have very less time to do the bank audit. I know it is a very less time to do the audit, but friends, you need to also understand one very important thing, which we should be able to appreciate out here, which is that if we plan it very well, and if we follow some of our essays in toto, a bank audit engagement would be really a big value add, and you would actually be satisfied that you have added a lot of value to the, the whole financial system of this country. So moving forward, I
think we lost connectivity with Anand Prakash. Pampana, can you just call the speaker and check? I'm sure there are no internet connections with the current speaker, but I think it just got disconnected for some other reasons. A few members were asking the email IDs of the speakers. I would like to tell you that we will revisit the profile. Whomsoever have not provided the email IDs, we'll kind of add it after the session is over. So you can later kind of go through the profile of the speakers and raise your queries if you have any with them. They'll also be happy to answer.
Speaker is just connected.
Sorry, I'm sorry for the little bit of technical issue. I don't know. Somehow just got thing.
Yeah.
So sorry for that. Yeah.
Correct. Can you share your screen also, sir, please?
Yes, sir. I'm just sharing the screen. Okay. I see when we have some new form of technology, sometimes this new things also comes into picture. Okay. I think I got lost during that part where I was talking about the first audit, or after that I've covered, sir. I'm sorry if you can just let me know. Okay, cool. Now someone is putting in the live comment, so I just saw it where we got dropped. Okay, so one moment. Okay, cool. So I'm sorry for this little bit of goof up. Do happens. This is what we call as Murphy's law. When you least expect things to go wrong, we were already earlier beforehand. We came and we checked everything, but this something happens. So coming back, friends, I was just talking to you that core banking systems plays a very important role in the auditing, and we can actually add a lot of value. Especially as I'm just trying to repeat what I just mentioned. Many a times, we always, when we go for the bank audit, we say that time is very less. But my objective of today's presentation is, are there some tools and tricks? Are there some shortcuts which you can actually do? How we can do an audit more effectively? I'm sure there are a lot of resources which are there, but how do we use these resources? There are hundreds of resources which tell you what need to be done, but the key things which you need to understand, and I will try to cover at the macro level as well as some micro level points here. Okay, and this is going to be the agenda, friends. As you can see out here, we start with checking some of the points which we should understand why it is there. We'll understand CBS. It may be a repeat for many of you people, but it's very important, friends, to understand what is the thing we are auditing. Okay, why it is important is when we used to do a manual books of account audit, we should have an understanding of accountancy. When you are doing audit in a Tally environment or a SAP environment or an Oracle environment, you should know that. And similarly, a CBS is a little different animal. It's an ERP for the bank, so we need to understand what it works, how it works, and what are the key things we should know. It is possible that some of you would be working on Finacle, which is from Infosys. Some of you may be working on FlexCube, and some of you may be working on banks, which is from SBI, area. But fundamentals remains the same. Like whatever you can think of all of them, you will always see that the fundamentals remains the same. So if you understand the fundamentals, you will be able to actually, gather out that. Some of the planning consideration, especially from a CBS environment, I'm just talking about that, and the macro factor and micro factor. See, I actually attended the sessions of the morning, and few of the sessions, I know that many of the thing has been covered, but for the completeness purpose, I have kept in the presentations, which is uploaded for you. You can actually go through that at a later point of time. In the session, I would actually try to cover the more important points and take you through that. And then finally, check out what are the key things which we should know. I have, some of my friends and mentors who have actually given some advice. I have taken their advices and added it to that because they have been also someone who are actually working on this field for a long, long time. So that's something which we need to be able to appreciate and take that forward. Okay. Now, this is some headlines, old headlines, which is there. And, you would have seen from my introduction, I have worked in Infosys. And so I just took one of the things which is there. This came in something around United Bank at that time. Blame Infosys software for wrong NPA entries. Okay. This was the first headline which came on Feb 19th. And then UBI again on 21st, you can see the time slot. They said they took a U-turn and they said no issue with Finacle NPA tool. Now, why I'm trying to bring out here these two headlines, just see these two conflicting headlines. Finacle as a tool is being used by 70% of the banks today in India. And if someone says that they have a serious doubt on that, then it means that whatever we are getting into the banking system, it is an issue of integrity. Financial statements which are coming out of the systems, how are we going to rely on that? But the second thing which happened was there was a U-turn, no issue with Finacle NPA tool, because this matter were escalated very fast. Now, why I'm telling you is, as auditors, when we call it as audit, a bank audit, stat audit, all of you know the fundamentals of audit. An audit is independent examination of facts and figure with an ultimate objective of giving opinion thereon, which means you need to verify, you need to examine the facts and figure. Okay. And what happens is the whole point is from a perspective of how it has been set up. So I want you guys to understand a little bit of questions on how CBS work first before I can answer more questions. Sheila ma'am has a question on TB. Ma'am, I'll cover it after I cover that, okay? Because it depends on the banks to banks, the way it has to be configured. So it will be different in every bank, okay? So that is point number one. I just wanted to bring one more, line, which shows what is the kind of, I would say, dependency on us, or what is the value add we try to bring to the table. You can see this is a statement by Deputy Governor of RBI. This was in 2015, but very interesting. It says, if RBI inspectors are able to identify this divergence in asset quality, NPA basically, in limited time frame, they are on site, how come they are not able to do that? Now, there are questions being raised on the efficiency of auditors. Now, all of you know that if we don't know something, that is not an excuse of not doing it. We have to upgrade ourselves. We have to know about this, and then we can actually take this forward. Unless and until we actually take an effort to learn about the environment which you are doing it. All of you know there are essays called Knowledge of the Business, Standard of Auditing, and they are very clearly says whenever you're doing, and I hope you know standards of audit or essays are mandatory. They're not recommendatory. You have to follow this in all kind of audits which we are doing it. If we don't do that, then it can have repercussions which are not going to be good for us, right? So the point is, this is a check-in statement which I thought I'll share with you, and this is how we are living in an environment where there are a lot of things which are happening, and as auditors, it becomes important for us to understand the whole environment clearly and then take that forward. Okay. So theme, okay, which I wanted to cover it for whole discussion is your audit objective are not changing. Methodology is going to go. Let me give you an example of why it is different. Let me give you. So let me take a very simple example, friends, and just to tell you what the analogy which I want to bring it up there. Imagine, I can see you're on your comment, so you can just comment on that when I ask the answer of the question, so that it's more, interactive, because I'm taking from few days, I'm taking a lot of sessions here at IIM Bangalore and other thing. And one thing we realize it when you are on a digital mode of communication for learning, a human brain can maximum concentrate for 40-45 minutes. After that, it is like very tough. So, let's keep it interactive. And one of the thing which I wanted to just do it, we'll give maybe a 5 minutes break in between to you so that you can actually refresh yourself up. But let me ask you a question with an analogy out here so that we are all on the same page, friends. The analogy goes something like this. Let's say I have a books of account, manual books of account written with pencil. Okay. Would you audit that books of account? Would you it's a company which is maintaining a books of account? Yeah. Prakash sir, I'll share you something called the list of all financial command for different banks separately. I'll tell you also the key how to do that later. Yeah, we'll cover that. So what happens is, would you audit a books of account of a company? I mean, specifying a company, because bank is also a company, which is written with pencil. Would your answer will be yes or no? Fees, whatever you ask. So most of the people says no. Great. Hemant, Srinivas sir, great. Yeah, no. And may I ask you a question, sir? Why not? The answer is simple, because you can't rely on the integrity of the books, right? And if you see, friends, what happens is, it's simple. A books of account written pencil. How can I have a financial assertion that no, and no one has done any kind of tampering with that, right? Now it becomes very, very important to be able to understand that. Now, similarly, let's take one system. CBS core banking system is like an accounting system, just like Tally. Now, Tally. Okay. Sunil, no precaution. You can't take photocopy, sir. Yeah. Okay. Great, Rishabh. Thanks, Rishabh. So in Pencil, Nikita, you're right that it can be manipulated. Perfect. All of you guys are good in this point. What I wanted to understand here is, and I want to tell you is, don't you think sometime in manual books of accounts also we used to have everything written with pen? Yeah, pen can be manipulated and all things, but even then it is very tough. But Pencil, I have a serious doubt on the authenticity of the book, integrity of the book. I'm not very sure this is the final thing. But would you know, most of you said no. But what if I tell you that, take example of an accounting system like Tally. I'm not saying Tally is a bad software, but if you don't do a proper controls on that, don't you think Tally is also a kind of a books of account written with pencil? When was the last time you have passed a rectification entry on Tally? It's not that Tally is a bad software. You can actually enable Tally that no backdated entries will be done. Because when you go into the core banking system, yes, we have a very clear cut objective. I want to be first very sure about that this core banking system cannot be manipulated, and I can rely on that. Because if you have gone through the SA700 series on reporting, that is applicable to you also. And friends, I'm telling you, I would highly recommend all of you to go through the whole, the guidance note which is issued by institute, because they have linked all the essays very clearly there, and it's amazing piece of document. So what I'm trying to bring out here is, in core banking system, and if you have done an audit in the old system, which is manual, nothing has changed. Audit objective remains the same. You have to test all the financial assertions. You have to ensure it up that it is all being managed properly. That's all. But your methodology change. So that is the thing. We have to do it. So Sanjay has a question in CBS, and can't it be made mandatory on the part of bank manager to provide the auditor with all soft copy of various reports? No, sir. That's the reason I told you again and again. You can get it done yourself. Why do you have to go to the management? As an auditor, don't you think? Let me give you an example. Which evidence is good for you? Okay, let's say you are doing a bank reconciliation statement. Would you rely on a printout from the bank given to you by the client, or would you be more interested in what we call it as going to directly? Let me just think of, in case of directly going to the bank and seeing the transactions for yourself. Now, don't you think that becomes much better? So I would say, Sanjay sir, in that case, you have to basically know the approach of getting the data. I'll be discussing that in detail with you as we move forward. We are just in a very starting point of our discussion right now. Okay, so that's the theme which don't change. Now, moving forward, the check-in which I want to tell you that, two key perspective, friends. My sincere request is to ensure it up that achieving branch balance sheet audit objective using CBS. Now, all of you know that, especially if you are doing, if you're not a central statutory auditors, you are basically a branch auditor, and most of the audit, what we are doing is what we call it as a balance sheet audit. It is more, I think if you know that most of the people would be actually covering the balance sheet items, NPAs, which are assets, and the liabilities, which are there. Yes, the other items are also checked, but predominantly it is on that. And the second one, which is very important because IFCs are there. So the internal control relevant to the branch audit, we need to look into that. And friends, I would highly, highly recommend you to read the section on internal control in the guidance note, because I hope you know in SA 315, okay, which talks where we define internal controls. I'm not sure how many of you have gone through it, but as from the old AAS, Auditing and Assurance Standard, to the new SA, what has changed is, earlier in internal control definition, it used to be very simple. Policy, procedure, practices, and organization structure put into place to help organization achieve objective, manage risk within the risk appetite, and ensure it up that all the risks are prevented, detected, corrected, full stop. One of the change which has brought in SA 315, the new definition of internal or controls, which I would highly recommend you to read, is, friends, what we call it as they have said now that in your what we call it as internal controls, they have added one more line. Internal controls include IT controls, information technology or information systems control, which means when you are actually giving a kind of an audit report saying internal control commensurate with the size of the business, or you're giving an opinion thereon, it becomes by default, you are supposed to comment on, friends, what we call it as all the points relating to internal controls in the system. That is the IT controls which are there on the core banking system. So that two reason I would like to cover the whole thing. So the perspective in the branch audit is all about that. Okay. Some of the past learning. Okay. Here I will just go very fast because we have a paucity of time, and I need to also end the session by I was told by 3:55, 5 minutes before 4. So I hope all of you know the cases of Barings Bank and Society General. Okay. If you have not gone through that, friends, I would just give a very quick brief on that, and you can Google it out, everything. Now, Barings Bank was one of the biggest bank in UK, and it closed down in 1994 because of a single person. Now, this case study is always taught in banking to everyone, saying that, boss, this is called the power of one. A single guy can bring down the biggest bank of UK. Now, Barings Bank was like SBI of UK, and they closed down because of one guy called Nick Leeson. So if you Google a little bit of that, you'll figure it out. Now, this happened in 1994, friends. And there is a movie made on this called Rogue Trader. You can actually look into that. But the main learning from that is in the book Rogue Trader, when the Froster wrote the book, 2 times he mentioned about the auditors. He said, first time the auditors came, I did something which is called as, I'm just trying to tell you not the fraud case, but what auditors' point is them. So first time when the auditors came, this guy says that he took what, called wining and dining. Now, what is this wining and dining? See, wining and dining, all of you know, it's like if you go for a branch audit and all thing, they will take you to the most far off place for lunch and dinner and other things so that they waste your time. And that's a kind of standard thing, bankers are known for that. I'm not generalizing that, but most of them do that. Second thing which was there is very interesting, which is called, how many of you heard the story of the naked emperor? The story goes something like that one person came to the king and the emperor and said, I'll make you a dress of gold. The emperor says, amazing. But he says, I have a condition. Only intelligent people will be able to see this dress. Fools will be not able to see that. He said, all of my people are intelligent, no problem. So he gives him 50 kgs of gold and the guy goes away. After 1 month, he comes with an imaginary dress and asks the emperor to get naked, and he put the imaginary dress on him. And the king thinks that he is a fool, that's why he's not able to see it. So he looks at his, other guys, and the other guy says, oh, I think we are fools, that's why we are not able to see it. So they didn't do it. I'm sure all of you have read the story sometime when you were growing up. And ultimately, the naked king walks on the road, and one kid shows him, and he says, oh, the king is naked. Now, the same approach, he tried it in Barings Bank. When the auditor asked them why this is like this, why like that, they said, oh, who made you auditor? You don't even know how entries are done and all the thing. Now, what happens is, this happens a lot of time. We get intimidated because, maybe sometimes we are not very prepared and all thing. So my sincere request to you would be, don't get intimidated. It's all good. We should ask. We are all having the right to ask silly questions also, and feel free, go with confidence when you are doing it. Second thing, the same case of Barings Bank happened in Society General also. And the third one, which I want to discuss it, is Levent case, which is very interesting because I hope all of us been told something called auditor is a watchdog, not a bloodhound. So all of you know CA final, we used to have this 8 marks question coming. Guaranteed, if you mugify and go, we are all set. So I also mugify and go. And I hope you know the case. It was Kingston Cotton Mill case, something around 1896 or something like that, if I'm not wrong. Now that Kingston Cotton Mill case is changed, friends. The new case, the new reference for auditor's responsibility is Levent case. You should go and read about that. This happened in Canada, that happened in London, and both of them are English law, or if you know, Canada is what we call it as a Commonwealth country. So the same case went there. Now in the Levent case, what happened was the judgment came If I'm, yeah, it's correctly, I'm just telling what is there in public domain. Deloitte was the auditors, and they said that the auditors have not disclosed fraud, though there were a lot of red flags. And they were asked to pay a penalty of 84.8 million Canadian dollar. Now, that was a big issue for everyone. So the point which I'm trying to say is, you need to understand these are going to happen with us, and we should be taking a lot of precautions now, because one mistake on our side, we can be in a big problem. I'll tell you what are the common mistakes which happens before I even begin into that, because I have seen it. I will tell you that we issue a lot of audit report is okay. You issue a lot of certificate also as part of your bank audit. My sincere request would be, don't do it just like that. When you give a certificate, all of you know, certificate means what? True and correct or true and fair? It's true and correct, right? Which means what? You cannot take it to life. Now, many a times what I've seen, I'm not going to name it up. And okay, sorry, I'll go a little slow. What I'm trying to say, friends, here is many a times when we issue a certificate, we have to be very careful with that. In bank audits, it's not just an audit. There are a lot of certificates to be issued. And certificates are true and correct. They are not true and fair. Which means if I go and write something in LFAR, you have been hearing about this term, so I'm not explaining it here, long form audit report, it is taken for granted that, okay, it's an opinion. So if you're writing there, let's say NA, okay? What does it mean, NA? Anyone? Okay, no questions now. Huh? Questions will take it last. Only, yeah. So only thing which NA can be not applicable, or NA can be not available also, both. How do you know that? So we should be very careful in how we do it. But when you're giving a certificate, then there is more challenge. Certificate means it's a true and correct. You can't take it for a lie. And we have to issue certificate on capital adequacy, very dangerous certificate, which I would highly recommend you to read it properly. Hosh committee and Jilani committee, okay, we all have been knowing that. But other certificates can be little intimidating. So we need to be having a clear understanding of what we are doing. And the last case I'm talking about is PNB. All of us know. Lucky for us, there was not much, our name came into picture, but PNB is a classic case of lack of controls. I would put it on central statutory auditors of PNB, that what were they doing, because internal controls on the treasury, especially the SWIFT system, was missing. And did you see how much it impacted them? Okay, so the whole idea is we have to clearly understand that. So yeah, there will be a query which, like Alama Prabhu sir has rightly said, as a branch auditor, I don't know whether the IT controls of the core banking is there. I'm going with an assumption. But let's say, for example, the difference which I want you to know it very clearly, which is very important. So the point which I'm trying to bring out, please listen to it carefully so that you understand the difference, or which is a very thin line of difference between them. Let's take an example. Now, a core banking system is Finacle and FlexCube. Okay. Now, there are some weaknesses which can be there. Now, you may only be able to comment it from a perspective of what you have seen in the branch. But what can happen in case that there is a bigger problem, authentication and all things? For that, most of the banks have external auditors who only go and take rid of core banking system. But my point is, any data which is coming of the core banking system, you cannot close your eye and say this has come out of the system, so it is correct. For example, I'll just tell you, if you are saying that there is a capital adequacy related data which has been provided by the branch, you have to get it validated. You have to basically check with other things, cross-reference it before you actually attest it or give a certificate on that. Okay, I hope that is what I want you guys to understand here. Now, the whole idea is the past learning has given us a lot of ammunition now because there are many more cases which happen, and I'm 110% sure all of you would have come across that. So because of this, friends, we need to change our approach and how we do that. Now, the background which I would like to take it for discussion is some of the relevant points which are very important. I hope you know I am taking it from a Companies Act perspective, especially 143, 315, our SA 240 of ICAI, as well as SA 200 series, right? Now, even 447 of Companies Act, where we have this discussion, these are some of the points which we should know in our mind, which is what are the responsibility of the auditors? What are the, what is the definition of fraud? You go to section, I would actually maybe add one more point, 134. So if you take this 3 section, I will be little, skipping some of the points here, but net, if you can think that, if you read these 3 sections together, 143, 134, and 447, you will understand in a banking environment also, because it's also a company, some of the applicability of sections which are there in terms of what happens, like which is applicability of auditing standard, which we are all aware of. SA 315, I am been talking again and again, okay? And second one is on SA 240 of ICAI, which is on ICAI's environment, and SA 200, which are basic principle governing an audit. And I'm not added still now SA 230, which is on documentation. But what happens, friends, is all these points we have to be aware of as we move forward, as we go into the area of a core banking system, because fundamentally it's an audit, and this background will help us in terms of understanding it better. So the first part which is there is having an integrated audit approach. When I say integrated audit approach, it should not be broken into between, oh, this is on IT, this is on manual. No. Even if you're doing, like I know a lot of time is spent on NPAs, identification of NPAs and validation of the thing, can we have an integrated approach of looking at all these things in one way? What are the IT controls relevant to branch financial audit? And it should not be looked into from a perspective of IS audit, because I hope you know the banks have different reports for IS audit, they will do it up. As a stat auditor, you can ask them, the branch, that whether any IS audit has been done or anything as such. Some banks does it, some people have different approach, depending on the banks to banks, it may differ. Also, we have to understand the impact of IT on the branch audit assertions. Why we say that? Many a time, I think this is going to be a common issue which you will face. For everything, they will say, oh, we don't know how this data is coming. We don't know, this is coming from system only. This will be coming from head office, they've loaded, I don't know how it happens. Now, maybe there is an ignorance and actual thing, but most of the time, there is IT in the branch audit assertions, it becomes a very critical role, because you need to understand how, what kind of use of IT is being done at the branch. Let me give you an example. And let's say Finacle only. In Finacle, there are ways how you can create, or there is a coding system for interest rate. You can create a code AA for this one. But do you think every bank does it in the same way? No, everyone is different. In some places at the branch level, you can edit the interest code, which is wrong. In some places, we cannot do this. Take example of PNB, Punjab National Bank. Now, this is what I call as the impact of IT on branch audit assertions. So I used to work for Goldman Sachs and other banks. What they do is, most of the banks, wherever the money is going out of the organization, they are very, very careful. So the SWIFT system, which was there in most, if you see in other part of the world, the system is like this. There'll be one system, SWIFT system at the head office level, and all the requests will be going to them, advices, which is there, and they will control everything. But in Indian environment, what we see in PSU, they had have class A branches, which are basically large branches with Forex and all thing. And there was a SWIFT system given out there. Now, when you give a search system out there, don't you think your risk goes many-fold in a branch? You have to now, as an auditor, you have to also comment on that part also, because there are forex remittances and other things which are happening. Can it have an impact on that? What are the IT controls? So my point which I'm trying to bring out is we need to understand the environment, and it will differ from bank to bank and branch to branch. How do we plan and test the key aspects of the branch audit, and how we can use IT effectively? Basically, when I say IT effectively, so you can go to Alama Prabhu's on Facebook, and he writes an amazing thing on how to use Excel in audit. So many of the areas which you want to test, they have a lot of things. You just Google it out, you'll find hundreds of more relevant material on different sections which you can do it. But you need to plan it out, friends. We are not telling you that part, that you have to do it yourself. But the key thing is, as a first timer, I'm specifying that you should know that these are the resources which are there, and how we can use these resources, how we can actually use that in a different way. All that things should become important here. Okay. So there are a lot of circulars are there. I'm just going to skip these things that are on relevant things. I'll skip this part. It is there as part of my things. Let us go to the deliverables, which we all know. I am sure from today morning, if you're listening to the whole sessions, you are very clear about the deliverables. So we have branch audit report, audited returns, MOCs. MOCs are fun, right? The more you can fill up, the better it is. Okay. LFAR, certificates, and TAP. Now, I would say in all of that, most of the things you'll be dependent on what we call it as the core banking system, because that is ultimately heart of the whole system. So let's try to basically see what are the Audit Association. I will just cover it very quickly because I want to go into the systems area now, just to give you a kind of an idea about how do we deal with that. So this is like the basic part which I want to cover it so that we can do that. So there are management responsibilities are there, and there are auditors' responsibility. So I will not go about the management responsibility, but this point which is there is they are making the financial statement, but our idea is to give an opinion on that. And we have given our all this engagement as per the standard of audit issued by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So from that perspective, we have to make sure that it is being performed as per that, and you have got a reasonable assurance on all of these points. Okay. So, and this becomes a very important slide for all of us, which is, and I would request you to focus on point number 1 and 3 in detail, because there are exceptional events that are not happening now, but it used to happen earlier. The first is integrity of the figures in financial statement, returns, and certificate. I am not like all of our friends who are going for the first time. You need to also understand one very important thing. Okay, the banking environment is not just one software that everything comes out of their software. They have a kind of a mix of legacy systems and other things. So there is a core banking system. There may be some specific scripts to be run. There are some other environment. So it's very important that whatever data is being shared with you, you should be absolutely sure about what we call is that what is the integrity of this financial statement. The data which is being shared with you, can you rely on that? If it is coming, let's say for example, I'm just telling you, the first and foremost thing which all of you should do. Usually I have not put it in my presentation, but this is like something which you learn from your thing. Do you know that you should never use the bank manager user ID password for doing all the work? You should, because there are many accesses which are only given to auditors. Let it be banks, let it be Finacle, let it be FlexCube. All of this are basically what happens is they have a different, what we call it as a audit module or auditor's view, where you can see all the exception reports and all things. And many a time nowadays, our friends have become very expert, but if you're a first timer, please, before you even start, you should request from the regional office or whomever you're coordinating with that I want the auditor user ID password. Basically, it will be the same for the concurrent auditor. If concurrent auditor is not there, then there are going to be challenges. So you should actually first of all tell them about that. And friends, it's very important. I will be actually telling you, one of my friend, he told me one very interesting thing, that he actually finished a full audit only on the exception reports and the system. So it's actually very much doable if you plan it up very much in advance. So when I say exception report, there are some reports which are only meant for whom? For the auditors. So you should have your first thing, a separate ID which has to be done. That is very important. Second thing, you should know which data is coming from where. Let's say, for example, I would say I'm very sure about banks. I'm not very sure about FlexCube and Finacle. I'm also aware of that. Capital adequacy data in most of the bank, if you are using a software called Banks, which is State Bank Group use, or you are using Finacle, it doesn't come out of directly from that. So they will take some data, separate data out of the core banking system, put into a different applications, do the massaging of that and give it to you. Now, my point is that if it is coming from the core banking system, at least I can, put a kind of, disclaimer that I am assuming that it has been reviewed by the central statutory auditors, and based on that, I'm relying on that. Chalega. But in case it is coming from another system, I don't know what's happening inside that. There is a joke going on nowadays in accountancy. How much is 1 plus 1? The answer is not like 2 or 11. The new answer is like how much you want it to be done. So we don't know what's massaging is happening and how it is being done. So we have our serious doubts on that. That's the point number one. Second is compliances with regulation. That is, I'm sure you have already covered that. I'm not going to that. IRAC classification and provisioning. That's my favorite area, and I think your favorite area also. How many of you know, friends, that in most of the core banking system, there is a auto classifications, IRAC classifications are built. But what we need to know is there is also one more option, that you can have a manual override on that. Okay. So the provisioning of that, how it is being done, you have to basically check whether it is correct or not, because there are manual override. Manual override means a human comes and change it up. It is possible. In banks, they allow it to do that, and that we need to look into. And this manual override can be a little scary, because I don't know whether it is correct or not, and I should be clear for that. So I have one, for my friends who are first timer, I have come out with a small hack for you. Okay. When I say hack, it is like not a hacking. Hack, we use a word for getting a shortcut. So may I request you all, if it is possible, before you start the audit of that bank, whichever bank you are in, let's say you are doing it for a State Bank Group, or you're doing it for, let's say, Bank of Baroda or any of them, may I request you that you try to get in your network, or maybe officially, ask them to give you 2 documents. And this is like, I'm again telling you, it's maybe not official done, but it is, if you do it, plan it up. The first one is, I hope a lot of you of my friends are doing concurrent audits of bank. As a concurrent audit of bank, that you are being shared with what we call it as the auditor manuals. There is a manual which will give all the commands for that. And we can actually take that, point number 1, and prepare very well. I think Vishal and everyone, am I audible, everyone? Because it's all unmuted. Yeah. So I think all of you should be able to hear me, friends. Can I just get a show of hand, or something, like you guys are able to hear me?
We are able to hear you, sir. Hello.
Okay, sir, Papana, sir, you are able to hear me, right?
Yeah, we are able to hear you. Just a little bit sound.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, this happens in a little bit of lag happen because there are a lot of people out there. Okay, great. So what I'm trying to bring out here is, we need to be, this is one of the hack or a shortcut which you can take. And the second one, which is very interesting, which I would say is, because I hope you know, Finacle, if I see Finacle implementation in Kotak Mahindra Bank and Finacle application in other bank, it's going to be different. It is like, I don't know how many of you work in SAP or Oracle, EPS, ERP. When you implement, it is customized. It is very much customized. So when they are customizing it, what happens is you cannot say that, oh, there are some standard commands, but it will be very, very customized. So you need to be 110% sure that before you go, don't go with a general thing that, this is Finacle, I have worked on this, it will be same. There may be some common points, but it would be very differently configured. Like there was a question which was asked to me in between, I was seeing it. How do we generate trial balance? There are places where you cannot just directly do a trial balance because it is actually a reporting feature which has to be configured in Finacle. So some banks have done it, some banks have not done it. Some people said, no, we'll manually do it. So my point which I'm trying to say is, you need to do these two things to be able to do your work better. This is like something like a shortcut I'm giving you. It will help you. So try to figure it out. Who's your friend? And ask him that, can he, because it's ultimately you can borrow from them, or you can officially also ask it, but banks are very slow in responding. So you should basically make sure that you ask them that this is like in your bank, how Finacle or how FlexCube has been configured. Point number one. Okay. Second one, which is there is, you can always ask is, can I get the Finacle manual? As an auditor, you have a right to ask, and FlexCube manual, and I have been doing bank audit for a long time. In every branch, they have a manual in a soft copy or hard copy. And nowadays they have inbuilt into the help file. So usually what happens is people, when we go to the branch, when we go there and then we start doing it, it becomes, if we have still some time now, we can actually start doing it. If you have in your network, you can ask us. There are a lot of WhatsApp groups which are floating around where people have been posting it, all the informations about what they were doing. And there are, concurrent auditors who post the manual also. So it is a good thing. You can actually use it. So these are the two things we should remember. Then come your inaccuracies with respect to the branch powers and all things, authorities and other things we need to actually look into. And exception event, which nowadays doesn't happen, but yeah, digital banking channels are something which has to be looked into and be managed. So friends, these are all what we call it as, key audit objectives of any of this environment which are there. But there are challenges also. We all know about that. Time constraints is there. Right source of information, whether we are going into that. Confidence of navigating through CBS, that's another issue, because many a time we think that, oh, it's a black box, why should we go into that? So there are many kind of things which will be actually going into that. And I would say that if you have, get your hand dirty. Anyway, you have auditor access. You can't do any mistake. What is the max you will do? The max you're going to do is you may just get log out. You log in again. So my point is that don't go with that key. If I do something, something will go wrong. Nothing. They will not give you access. If you're an auditor, you have only a view access for everything. So play around with that. I will tell you. Or if you don't want to do it, your boys and your article clerks, they would be very much interested in playing around and learning it up. Ask them to basically get their hand dirty. This would be good. And then the tracing the audit trail. This is very important, especially, let's say, for example, I have something like, let's say, this audit has happened and this data came from that. Someone has gone and changed some data in, let's say, I'll give you a kind of a classic example in the, IRAC norms. Like there was manually someone has overridden it. Now I want to know who's the person who has manually overridden. Now this term is called audit trail, which means has someone changed anything on this and why? And if you have changed it, when did the change was done? Before I came for audit or something like that, I need to have a complete understanding on that. So this is what we actually try to, understand and take that forward. Then we have getting the required information on time, that you all know. It's a challenge. I agree with you, friends. It's a big challenge. We are in a short. So my request to you would be, end of this thing, I'll be sending you one link. I'll be uploading one link with a lot of sample, what we call as, list of reports which you should be reviewing it up. In Finacle, in banks and all things, what are the commands for that? But I would again tell you, each commands are standard commands and it changes also. So you need to basically take it everything with a pinch of salt, validate it yourself. And then comes getting the data for analysis. This is another big issue. All of you know that in Finacle, FlexTube, and all of these things, some of the places it will be coming in CSV format, not in Excel format. So you have to take the data out from there, read it in your Excel, then do the analysis. There are places where it comes in PRN format, which is a print format. Again, it is like comma separated. You can actually convert it up. So you should know what has to be done. Usually, my request to you would be plan it up a little bit of advance. Ask the auditor, the bank manager, what is the report format and all thing. Plan for that. Just make a list of all the analysis you want like to do it. You have got all the areas which you need to check them, and an audit documentation can be maintained very effectively for that. So that's something which are the audit challenges in this area, and that would be something which I would like to let you know, friends. This is very important, and I'm telling you. And see, I hope I will not. I have already mentioned about SA 315, so I'll not talk about this. But SA 315 clearly says that we need to have an understanding of that. Okay. So now this part also, I am 110% sure most of you know in a basic thing. Maybe if you're a first timer, you will learn it in ISCA, MICS, or something. Mr. Vinay, we have uploaded this PPT. You can download it from the on the site also. Okay, if it is not clear here. So the considerations are manual controls. We are anyway checking it out. That there are automated control and IT dependent, which are called semi-automated controls, which are there. So these are the three things which becomes the key internal control consideration for the audit. Okay, and you need to look into the integrity of financial assertions, efficacy of internal systems control, and the assurance over compliances. This is, I'm just trying to recount the same objective what we discussed about that. So friends, this becomes a critical part of all we do. So this is the first part of my presentation. I just take a stop here because now we'll go a little more technical and try to go into the system. This is around the system I was talking about for so far. Okay. So I know it's already around 55 minutes, friends. I'm just keeping a tab of that. Let's do one thing. Let's take a 5 minutes break. All my friends who are not able to see the PPT, may I request you can download the PPT from there, and we will reassemble in 5 minutes and then take that forward. Pampana sir, is it fine, sir?
Yes, sir. Fine, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So friends, let's take a 5 minutes break. And in the last, I will keep around 15 minutes for question and answers. I know there are a lot of question and answers. And we will be uploading, as I told you, most of the information out there. Okay, great.
Yes. Thank you. Dear members, most of the time, most of the videos which we are will also be uploaded in our website. We can always view whoever missed the sessions, which always we can go to the SIRC website and we can view.
In fact, all the presentations which you are seeing, the YouTube videos, the link or the PPTs are available just below the video itself. And we'll be introducing the forthcoming programs and the past programs webinar tab in our SIRC website. You just click that, all the programs link as well as the materials will be available for download. In fact, I will share it in the comments box right now. It is t.ly/4gnd. Let me just check if it is working first, and then share it with all of you once again. Yeah, it's good to go. So this is the link for the programs. And for those who want to see the link of today's one, so I've shared the materials link as well as the links. Somebody says difficult to download from Google Drive. So just open that file and press the download button, or on the file over the cursor and give a right click. It will give you a download option. It's pretty simple because we have used Google Drive so that we can keep updating it and sharing it with ease. Okay, some of these seminars are clashing with ICAI head office seminars. See, many a time we fix something and head office come up with something, but whenever we are fixing, we are seeing that there is no clash with the programs. So kindly bear with us. Maybe you will have to prioritize and see the recorded ones. But again, the catch is you will not be able to answer questions or ask questions. So I think we'll have to live with those difficulties. But from SIRC, we are seeing to the maximum that the programs are not clashing. Yes.
Welcome back, Anand sir.
Thank you, sir. I think, just like the participant, I also wanted a 5 minutes break just to grab some water. And I think we're good to go. So I'm just sharing my screen, friends, and it's a great mode, I think, of communication. All of you are sitting from your home. I hope you're all safe and everything, and we can actually just go with this. Yeah. So shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So, friends, let's start from where we are left. Okay. So in this slide, I wanted to actually talk about something on, first a core banking system. 1 minute, so this happens. Okay. So core banking systems, as I was telling you, are nothing but a ERP package. Okay. And when we are actually dealing with an ERP package, all of you know that a ERP is, let's say I buy a SAP in Sun Pharma and SAP in Dr. Reddy's, two company. What you will find is, though the both of them are using SAP, it is not configured similarly. Now, core banking system, if you actually know, it is like a system on ERP for the banks. The three main parties we have been talking again and again, FlexCube, Finacle, and banks. They are the most standard one across the thing. There are also many small vendors. What happens is that every time, whenever we are dealing with the systems, we should have a knowledge of the systems, a basic environment understanding we should be doing. I told you the two hacks which are there. taking the manual auditor's manual, which is there from all the concurrent auditors, and asking them the help file, or it is basically nowadays in most of the core banking system already done. If you use the function one key, you will get all the help which you want in knowing where it is and how you can deal with that. Now, having said that, I would, before I start with the techniques and other things which we need to do, I want to talk about one thing which is very important. What are the efficiency which are there in core banking system automation? Earlier, we used to have branch level automation, which means every branch will have their own account. Now it is a core centralized. Core stand for centralized online real-time environment, CORE. So it's basically now centralized online real-time environment. And all of you know we can actually use it. So now to make, because this slide covers the most important crux of my presentations. Everything is going to support it up. You can see this term here, efficiency and risk. Both are contradictory, right? So, but what I'm trying to bring out is, when we move into a new environment, we use a new approach for basically doing our accounting. The risk also increases with that. Now, the first one is, from a KYC perspective, all of you know RBI has a requirement of 360-degree KYC, which is nothing but complete profile of that person. So you have got the borrower profiles out there, and the term sheet of that loan is control automation is there. Now, just because it is there, can there be a problem? Let me give you an example. I just will give you a couple of examples to cover that point. Now, in the term sheet, okay, I heard this thing from one of my friend who has done an audit at somewhere in North India, and he was saying that when he tried to check for the loan given to staff, the bank manager says that is not part of your scope. And I was shocked to hear this from my friend. Who was the bank manager to that it's not part of your scope? But the reason maybe he was trying to do is maybe, I'm not sure. I didn't get more information with that. But the term sheet of the loan which has been given of the borrower or anything as such, can I change it up? Yes. Now this is the problem starts. Okay, how? Let me give you some practical examples, friends, so that you can understand them. So automation and other risk. We'll just cover this slide and then we'll go what you should do and how do you basically plan for that, because we have very less time, so we'll just do it. So think of this. Can I take a loan from a bank? Okay, let's say a bank, big branch is there with a lot of borrowers and everything. I go there and take a loan from the bank, and the friend who is setting up the loan officer is a friend of mine. What he does, very interesting. Huh? Do you think, in my accounts and all thing, there is anyone is sitting and passing the journal entries for interest and other things? I hope you know it's all automated computation, right? So what happens is, this person, instead of setting, listen to me very carefully, and you can ask me a question at the time and I discuss it. Instead of putting 18% interest for my loan, I put minus 18%. Now the question is it feasible? Answer, yes. That is the reason the control most of the bank put it is, the changes to the interest rates can be done by only authorized people at head office. But I will not want to name some of the banks here who allows even the branch level guys to create new interest product, and that create a problem. So if you are a friend of mine, is it possible that I will put one minus entry? Yes, possible. And imagine every month so many entries will be passed. One negative entry, no one is bothered because it may be a reversal of charge. So are you seeing it up? Automation has good thing, but automated computation of interest fee, charge, margin, and provisioning can create problem also. So we should not take anything on the face value. As an auditor, we should validate it with a professional skepticism that everything is okay. Second, many a time they have the workflow of creating a loan or anything either fully automated or partially automated. I'll tell you one very interesting example. Though I would not say it's a big problem at a branch level, But from a central statutory auditors, they should actually be looking into that. And just an example of core banking system. Let's say today I take a loan of 1 crore rupees from a bank and I give a collateral of 10 crore rupees. Okay. So they will create an account. They will say, okay, loan 1 crore, new loan item is there. And collaterals, they will fill it up 10 crores. Great. Now, I have given a collateral of 10 crores. I come again that I want one more loan of 50 lakhs on the same collaterals. Would they give it? Yes, very much. The collateral is very high. But for this 50 lakh rupees loan, when they cannot map it to the 10 crore collaterals. They will actually create one more line item called 10 crore one more. Now, at a head office level, when I see this, what would I see? In an asset liability management from a banking perspective, I will see what? My loans are 1.5 crores, 20 crore collaterals. But actually, this has to be done. Now, this is a kind of inherent problem in core banking system. Whenever you go for bank audit, please check for this. It is a kind of an issue which is there. And the bankers also know about that. But my point is that we should call it out very clearly. Because it's very important that we show some value add to the top management that this is one of the key things which is happening. Maybe I am not saying that it is going to impact our financial audit in a very high way, but you can see that this is a kind of a limitation in the system. Transaction integration from multiple delivery channels. It is integrated from multiple sources, as we know, like say, for example, your banking environment and other things. And now UPI and so many other tools are there. How we control it? Transaction hitting real time and POD data column. Now this problem is more or less gone. But earlier what used to happen is many of the banks used to have this problem of what we call as batch processing. Means end of the day, all the entries would be passed. Now what can happen because of this? One very interesting thing can happen. Now it is, don't try it now. It is not possible, but that was a weakness earlier. Imagine, I'm just giving the name also, Corporation Bank, because it was happening out there. Corporation Bank, the ATM switch was batch processing and other things were all real time. So let's say, for example, I have 25,000 rupees in my account. I can actually go to the ATM. Again, don't try it now. It is not possible now. I'm just telling you the weakness in the, explaining the concept why. So I can go to the ATM in front of a bank, withdraw 25,000 rupees, and then go inside the bank and withdraw another 25,000 rupees. Because that matching or the things, they will come into the core banking system end of the day. Now it is not possible because most of the time it is real time. That is the kind of a thing which will happen. Next 2 points are important. Are there opportunity for manual intervention? I told you bypasses. This is something which you should understand. We have seen cases where fraud happens because there is a manual override. I'm using the word again and again, and you should see this. It's called, the system has said that, oh, this is an NPA, but there is a process the bank manager can say, no, it's not an NPA. It's called manual override. So when you see the exception report, end of the day, it will show as, and this is account is a, what we call it as NPA, but next day it is not an NPA, it's a standard asset. So we need to look into that. And most important, friends, alerts, escalations, view, and report. I would suggest this last line is like, our Sanjeevani boutique. This is what is going to help us. I would suggest that if you're going for an audit, if you're dividing a team of 4 people going for this, 2 people should be going through all the exception reports. There are daily exception report, weekly exception report, monthly, and so many different day-end exception report. You start going through that, friends. This is like, a kind of, gold mine for you for information. You will know everything what has happened in front of you. As a doctor who sees and, tries to give a kind of analysis of what is the problem at hand, you would be very easily able to understand what are the challenges. Okay. So the mapping consideration which are there is, which are the heads of account which are affected by other than CBS? Is there anything which is outside the thing? Some bank do that. We have to see this maturity concept also and plan for that very, very carefully. Okay. So audit techniques, what are the things which you can use? So from here, we are going to discuss it up. What are the things which we need to understand and take the problem? The first are, what are the CBS feature you can use for audit? First and most important thing, all the menus and all the exceptions. And if you know, I am 110% sure you would have known this, that core banking system has audit module. So this is actually a module, just like in Tele, you have this nowadays, a module for auditors to see all the things. This is like in Finacle also is there. It's also there in FlexCube and banks also. Banks, it is not so developed, but other two software it is very developed. Okay, so the audit module gives all that many options and line commands which can be there, command lines which can be used out there. And as I told you, there are some lists which are already there. Some more we'll upload it for you. You can actually go through it. Now, standing data and parameters and how they are controlled. Now, what is the standing data? So it's called permanent data, like borrower profile is the thing. So these are called something like semi-automated control. It is not 100% a human can do it. It is done on the system, but yes, the human will analyze that. Maybe he would have some kind of document to prove it up and take that forward. All kind of reports and how to extract the report. This is the most important crux. CSV format. You have something on, FPRN format or any of this format. How to bring it in Excel and then analyze it. You should have 2 of your team members just be ready for doing all these things. Okay. How to filter the report column for your audit logic, what you want to do that, and how to use Excel for audit. I'm not going to cover Excel for audit, but it is a very good tool, friends. I'm just telling you, if you get a time, our institute on the learning module have given out, there is a one free learning. It's on the site of our institute, which is on audit as Excel tool. Please cover it up. This will give you enough material to basically do an effective, audit out here. And I would say even if you're not an expert in Excel, no problem. It's a basic kind of thing which we need to understand that. So these are the only things in Excel we do: import, extract file, apply delimiters, perform sort, filter, comparing two data from 2 different sites, custom file, VLOOKUP, deduplicate, count, countif, pivots, Benford law. These are the only one if you can use. I would say this is more than enough. You have done an amazing audit than any of the things you can do. Okay. So in the methods and techniques, friends, sorry. What I want you to tell is, these are some of the things which we do: interview and observations. Interview and observations are important, friends. When you are there, you see things in a different perspective altogether. So my suggestion to you would be that before you even started, please spend some time. Though you are done your homework, you have come with that. I will tell you personally what I do. I act like as of Dumbo. I don't know anything. Okay. But I have done my homework and go for that. And then I ask, how do I get this? How do I go that? This helped me knowing that what is the kind of environmental risk of that branch which I'm going to, that are they cooperating, not cooperating, and based on that I just go for it. These are some of the tips and tricks which you can use as a first timer. So sampling which are there, advanced portfolio sampling which are doing, which are the one you want to go in deep dive, chances of income leakage which are happening. This all you can do it using the core banking system audit methods which are there. Which are the major GL head you want to look into, manual debits which has been done, what are the menu options which are there, which exception report you want to go through it. All of the lists are there. Excel and CATs which can be used, I've already told you. And in case you really want to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger, then you should go for SQLs and other things. But I will not recommend it right now as a first timer. Maybe next year when you try to do it, you would have already gained a lot of things. Please try to do it at that point of time. So this will give you a kind of clear understanding on how to do that. So the branch transactions which we can do, you can do a review of audit of the transactions. So what are the transactions which happened, why this happened, and all things. You can see the parameters which has been done, the configuration in the systems, which means how do they make sure this isn't a non-performing asset, IRAC norms are being used or not. See the standing data. I'm again and again using the word standing data and transactional data. Please remember this. It is basically like, if I have to give an example so that you're not confused. Imagine if I'm processing payroll, what is the standing data and what is the transactional data? So the salary detail, or what is the salary structure, this is called standing data. And all the attendance data would be what we call as transactional data. Similarly, when you are doing it, borrower profile, it is a standing data. Parameters of the loan, standing data. But what are the transactions happening? this will be all the transactional data. So we need to actually look into, divide into that, the master data and transactional data, how we basically can differentiate between that. And for them, we need to come out with a clear approach of how we can analyze this and what are the kind of different types of audit tests we want to do it as part of our engagement. Okay, I know the time is a crux, friends, so you have to be very clear that you deal with that. So see the key parameters which are there, what are the categories which has been done, and do a detailed walkthrough. And I will tell you one very interesting thing, which I don't know if you're aware of that, but if you've gone through our sampling guidelines or sampling methodology which is there given by our institute, see, there are something like, if I'm doing the task so many times in a day, I should have 40 samples or all the thing. If it is an IT control, the most interesting thing is you take one sample, if it passes, the whole walkthrough is passed, it is okay. Even one sample fails, the control fails. So it is very important that we have a clear understanding of this, taking a kind of a walkthrough. Okay, this is how the loan was generated. This is how it is being done. On how are you, calculating the drawing power of that person, the DP and all the things. If you take one account and do a proper walkthrough of that from your samples which you have done, I'm telling you, you will get a clear understanding of what's happening and what are the key things to be looked into. When we do the parameters audit, okay, so what are the, whether the transactions are within the banking power, because there is a delegation of authority or delegation to the bank managers, whether he has done it within that power or not. So we can actually see that, okay. Then you can actually see in agreement with the books of account, the linkage and other things has been properly done or not. And income part, expenses part, though I told you, mostly we have a balance sheet audit. There are some part of, we have to see this whole process from perspective of income and expenditure that can be also looked into, okay. So friends, this I have actually put it up in clear way in the presentation, but this is one thing which I want to talk about, a transactional analysis versus voucher audit. So we have to be very clear that before you choose any of the, what I can tell you as you want to see some voucher, some of the thing, you should do a proper transactional analysis, and based on that, you should see that this is what I would like to look into. This is what I want to check that. So it's, if you take a process, it is something like define your audit objective, what you want to do. You identify the required report which are readily available from CBS, because as I told you, from an audit perspective, auditor's manual perspective, you would find a lot of data. So Radhakrishna sir has asked exception for whole year to be reviewed. Sir, there I will be actually coming to the list of all the exception reports which are there. I would say that there are some reports which for whole years you can actually review. Yeah, the data is always there, but there are some reports which you should do whole year. Some you can actually take, on sample basis. But my request to you would be, if possible, it is better for the day end exception report, you should take the whole year and try to analyze it. It won't take much time, sir. 300, maybe it will be some 250, 270 line items, not line items, files will be there which you have to merge into one. So that's something which we need to look into this. So what I'm trying to bring out here is that your simple analytics of advanced profiling, audit of NPA provisioning, revenue from advanced categories, and all the LFAR controls which are there, everywhere we can actually have a simple analytics. Maybe I'll give you one example of advanced profiling, and you can actually see what are the things we know in advance. So I have actually put for each of the area what should be your audit approach on that. So I put it for more. Maybe I'll explain one of the thing and then we'll go to the exception report, friends. So here it's more on account profile data. You can see the control of exception analysis which are there, exception report which is there. Global level, branch level, account level, what are the parameters are there, whether this person has taken a loan in other branches also, NPA computation has been correct or not. If not, you have to raise a kind of issue. And IRAC classification, is it like DC driven or how it is being done? Provisioning, are they doing it manual, overriding it up? How this is being all done, we can actually look into that. So similarly, I have actually put it for each of this area. I will not go into detail, but I want to talk about something of the CBS reports which we can actually do that. This is one very important slide, friends, which I want to talk about. So there are regular reports for different areas of the bank. And I hope, there are some, many of you would have done concurrent audit, friends. So you are very much aware of that there are so many different filing by the branch, because they have to do a daily filing, weekly filing, quarterly filing, monthly filing, and all things. All of them is basically included. So regular reports are there. Exception report. I would say exception report is first thing you should start with. And then analytical review, what's happening in the branch. The whole thing should be there. It will be like a dashboard. I will not name, but one of the bank, which is a very second or third largest bank of India, they have very beautiful audit dashboard. So you can actually see that in branch, what is happening, what are the kind of things going good, what are not going out there. Look for system generated as well as manual records. If there are something which is generated by the system, I would not say that you should do one thing which earlier sometimes people used to do, which was something like taking what we call as the voucher which is from the system and validating it with the printout of the same voucher. That should not be done. So we need to be clear about that. This is manual record, this is a system generated, and what are the kind of things we can do it. All the transaction review on the terminal, who has access, read access, review access. I see a lot of time in people don't check one thing. You should be doing it. Who has what rights in the branch, what they can do. And this will be a good value add, friends, because it will give you a complete understanding of different user rights and all things. And this is also available for the auditors in terms of ITAC, what we call it, IT access controls and all things. You can actually do this. So review of the logs, daily transactional operational logs are nothing but kind of reports which are there, internal exception reports, and auditors we can do that. When you're doing the advanced audit, you have all this using the parameters which you can look into that. I just given a list of all the parameters which you can look into and do that. This is on LFAR. I'll just skip few of the slides, friends, because I want to just directly go on some of the points which are there. Yeah, this is the area which I want to talk about. The CBS exception reports. Okay. So CBS exception report, there are some of the basic kind of reports which are there. We start with authorization and limit report, which means, is there anywhere the authorization matrix has been breached? And if you go through this report, it is generally there in all of them. I have seen that this one is a very interesting thing from a perspective of knowing delegation authority matrix. Then GL code list with other than those reporting things, which means there are some accounts which are there, we can point it to that parameters. Manual debit to interest paid account. So you can actually see the exception parameters have been, someone has changed it of that, or the end of the day exception reports. So friends, this helps you. There are other mandatory end of day reports also, daily transaction, check issues and all things. But I would say if you basically go through that first part, it is more and more easy for you to be able to handle it up in a very detailed manner. Okay. So this is one or two more slides before we take some questions, because it's already 3:40. So let me just quickly cover, friends. I'm just keeping some of the slides. Okay, some of the special consideration even if you're doing in core banking systems, because there are other channels of business like ATM and all things, and I'm sure you can actually look into that. And from a certification perspective also, we have a lot of certification which are there. I am more concerned about capital adequacy. This is one of the area which I think you should be very careful how you are getting the data. My sincere request would be, whatever reports are being shown to you, ask for supportings on what basis this report has been given, because they should be able to do a mapping of that. Please don't sign it up just like that okay, this is done and this is what we wanted to share here. So this I'm sure other faculty have already talked about ghost and other things, so I'm not going to talk that. Few points which you can actually see, documentation, what we need to maintain in a core banking system environment. Audit documentation, friends, is a general thing, not very specific to that. But I would say you should have the minutes of the meeting of all the meetings, what you have done. If they say something that we cannot provide you this, we don't know this, you should have that. Walkthrough. I would say the bank manager should give a walkthrough of the whole branch and all the businesses and everything. Audit program, which you have taken it up. Okay, now the most important thing comes into picture from core banking system. core banking system, you would like to have a lot of electronic evidences. So all the extracted file, I request you, usually in most of the bank, the pen drive don't work. And it's a good thing. It's a control which is very much required. My point is that for all the screenshot, all the reports which you have taken, it should be mailed to you from the bank ID. It's very mandatory that you should have all the documentation coming from them. Don't try to have it in other ways and all things. I would say it's very important we maintain a proper documentation, because there can be some issues out there. And any submission from the branch management also should be taken care of that. And if anything you want to, based on the judgment and all things, bring it to the notice, MOC is always there, right? Reporting, friends, I'm not going to cover because already a thing. So in summary, friends, what I would like to bring out here is banks are going to use more and more technology. If they don't use technology, the chances of error and frauds or system being abused and failed is going also very high. The word efficiency and risk together to deliver efficient audit, detection risk, yeah, and other audit risk are managed more better and effectively. We can actually do a proper information gathering and faster. I would say you can look out for the risk arising from exceptional event in this case. Data analysis will be a game changer. So please use Excel like anything. And friends, I'm again telling you, there are so much of information. You just do a Googling, Excel for bank audit, you will find huge amount of resources. So it doesn't make sense to give you anything out here, but I've sent you some of the steps which is the presentation. If you can use that much, it is great. And great opportunity to keep and leverage our contemporary techniques. Maybe these techniques you can use in your other parts also. So what we need to understand in the banking technology, this is one of our friends, one of my mentor told me, and I'm just quoting from him, banking minus IT mobiles, non-existent today. Banking minus appropriate IT controls, high risk of fraud and error. Branch audit without consideration of IT control, again, high audit risk. And ICAI significantly automated if not considered, you will have a professional negligence. But branch audit in consideration with IT control, that would be what we call as an efficient branch audit. And it will add a lot of value in terms of how we deal with that. So friends, thank you very much for a very patient hearing. I know I was a little fast because of the paucity of time, but just to give you a few things, we have uploaded this presentation. If you're not getting it after a few minutes, you can do that. I will also upload some of the resources which are there. But again, I told you, every bank is different. You should try to take from your network, or you can reach out to me if you have any doubt on this mail ID. I'll try to say, share some of the formats of the manuals which are there with me. And that's all from my side. Over to you, Pampana sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. We can take some questions.
Okay.
Chairman, sir, suggested.
Yeah, I think maximum our speaker took it then and there. Let me just see if you have missed anything and we need to take.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'll just see if we have missed anything.
I would just try to summarize from. Yeah. Is there a way to see user right for accessing right primarily assigned to?
Did we take this?
No, sir. This we have not taken.
Interesting. Okay, great. Okay, Alama sir, take it. Alama sir, it's a very good question. Prabhu sir, I know him. So as he rightly said, a branch audit cannot give assurance on IT control CBS. I agree with sir. So overall core banking system, we are not asking for. But what is applicable at the branch level, we need to look into that, sir. And we need to ensure it up that from this perspective, the disclaimer, this is a very good question what sir has said. In our report, we have to clearly call it out. And I think Alama sir has somewhere also quoted SA 701. I would request friends, all of you, before you go for audit, SA 700 series on audit reporting, please go through it. And sir has rightly clearly says that we have to give the right disclaimer that we have seen it all from a perspective of the branch level. And we are assuming, I'm actually using the word assuming, that the central statutories, making sure that the core banking system has been audited and all controls are working effectively. We have to go with that, and that is a point we should do. Because see, at the branch level, we can see only a part of the thing. We are not seeing the whole monster there. We are just seeing a part of the monster. Yes, sir. Any other questions?
In fact, one query is on comments. We would request viewers to go through the SIRC YouTube channel. Kuntal Shah sir has taken one exclusive channel. In fact, 2 parts on this CBS environment.
Yes.
Where the material also covers all the comments actually.
Right. That would be good actually. That's the thing which I'm telling you. A lot of institute material has the sources out there, which Kuntal sir has, I've seen it. It's a good presentation. Please, you can share it.
Yeah, in fact, SIRC of ICAI is going to come with the background material where a lot of checklists and these comments are going to be compiled in one place and be shared with everybody.
Amazing, sir. That's amazing, sir. Okay. After branch manager feeds in non-parameter should not be permitted to change it again as there is no freeze on variables if there is no camp. Okay. Sir, this is the key audit matters. You are right. From an internal control perspective, but I would give it a caveat out there, Alama sir. What happens is it depends on the branch, the environment which has been defined by the management. Some of the banks allow it to happen, and that is not a good control process. But I would say by default, you can bring out this matter when we are commenting on the internal controls. That has to be done. Yep. 701 key audit matters are those matters. Yeah, the CAM, yes, sir. That's very much, yeah, SA 701. I told you. SA 700 CDs is very important for all my friends, okay, I would say. Okay. Radhakrishna, sir, yes, exception report for the whole year have to be reviewed, and you can actually get it all together also. That I want it from this period to this period. It will give you the full year, exception report, which is easily available, sir. Okay. Good morning. Find any head office or branch changing interest can be reported. Sir, for before you do that, I would say, Rahul sir, you should actually do a workflow. As I told you, some banks allow the branch to change it, and you can actually put as a kind of thing that this is not a good practices. You can bring to the notice of SCA, but most of the banks have now stopped it because there have a couple of frauds which has happened. I am very much aware of a couple of frauds which has happened in Pinnacle environment. That's why I'm sharing with you. But if you come across, yes, you should put it in MA very much.
So, Prabhu sir, apart from queries, he has given that this has benefited everybody. It's a compliment.
Okay, thank you, sir. Alama sir is always very special. He has questions are very interesting.
As he rightly put it, learn, unlearn, and relearn. That's the saga of CBS life.
Great.
Yes, I think we have exhausted all the questions also.
Okay.
There's one more. We'll take the last one. COVID-19 will have any impact on our audit reports?
Yes, sir. There is going to be a big report. I think, okay, this is my personal view, but, just correct me because many places I'm hearing from my friends, the banks were actually starting to share the data initially so that the branch auditor can start working, but they have stopped, sharing the data now because there are going to be some adjustment to be done. And I think this will be an exceptional event which are there. I will told you that digital things and other things or what happened like demonetization. So I am actually expecting that there is going to be a circular or something which is going to come very soon before they start sharing the data. So there are going to be some points or some reclassification of accounts, which I can think of. This is my gut feeling. I may be wrong, but I am going to see that there are going to be impact on this for sure. So that is my view.
So the branch auditor
Should
the branch auditor
okay. Okay. See, I would say as a branch auditor, I would go back not to the guidance note. I would directly go to Companies Act. So in Companies Act, I would request you to see the role of branch auditor. There are many places it is clearly said the branch auditor can communicate to the stat auditor or the central auditor saying that these are the things which are there or key audit matters can be done. I know there are two school of thoughts on this also, but I would say if you go in the reading of essays along with the Companies Act, there's nothing harm in doing it. There's one question by Srinivasan Deshpande. Auditors Pinnacle ID is given late. Yes, sir. This is actually intentionally done. So be careful with this. please ask for that beforehand. I told you again and again, don't. The moment you start bank staff IDs, you will get only 50% of the picture. You want the full picture, please start with auditor's ID. That would be the thing. Sir, I think this is more or less done from my side, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Hope all the members and students have enjoyed this session on CBS environment. I on behalf of SIRC, I thank CA Anand Jangid for enriching the knowledge on CBS environment and other aspects of the bank audit, which is most important. And I thank Chairman DC Jain sir and Abhishek, Secretary, for being meticulously working on this bank audit standards for quite a number of days, and they are on toes to serve the members and students at large, which is very happy. Even though in the tough time we are all facing during COVID time, we are not escaping with learning the things from the online. Definitely, it is a very, very important session which has enriched the knowledge on CBS environment and other things. Thank you, Anand sir, and thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Secretary, once again. And thank you. I thank all the viewers, even members and students have accessed the program.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Team SIRC, for the opportunity. It was great, sir.
And only suggestions to the members: be safe and be at home, and try to follow the rules and the regulations of the state, of respective states and the central at this time, difficult times. We need to support to the government initiatives and be at home and be safe. And thank you, one and all.
Yeah, in fact, I must add, it is Pampana who was instrumental to see that the program for first time has happened. He wanted it for students. I told this will as well as cover the students. So whatever we feel, we must now add. Pampana can take it forward for the students exclusively.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You would like to add anything?
We also
Yes,
have conducted a panel discussion on bank branch audit, which you have uploaded already, which has been conducted on 17th April of this month. And members who have missed something, which is some topics which is not covered over here, it can be viewed that video.
Yeah, Abhishek, please.
Thank you, Sikasa Chairman Pampana. Of course, thank you to the wonderful speaker, CA Anand Prakash Jangid from Bangalore, and our Chairman, Dynamic Chairman DC Jain. As rightly pointed out by past Chairman of Bangalore branch, CA Alama Prabhu sir, he has been regularly sharing feedback with us. We are also regularly seeing for all of our programs. Despite his busy schedule, he's always been there with us and sharing his feedback. And of course, many other people as well. And really credit goes to our chairman. Even though we are there, all of us are there as supporting team.
Full teamwork.
Even though we are there as a supporting team, he has been very, very instrumental in keeping up the ideas. Of course, we are there to push it through, but that idea, that spark, really it's come from him. And I must say, even though initially we had a feeling this COVID lockdown will be a major challenge for us, really he has been able to convert it into such a milestone year for our institute. The sort of reach that these programs are having is something which is phenomenal. Constantly we are getting very positive feedback. So I take this opportunity to thank our chairman for taking this initiative and constantly having programs to update our members and getting wonderful speakers like Anand Prakash Jangid sir and our other speakers who have joined us today. So with this brief vote of thanks, even though it was formally given by CA Pampana, our chairman of SICASA, I'll also make a few announcements. 27th April, we have a program Audit in Time, where CA Ranganathan, PK Ranganathan will be speaking. On 1st May, income-based penalties on income tax by CA Banu Shekhar. And on 2nd May, overview of bank audit, where past president CA Amarjit Chopra will be joining us along with CCM G. Shekhar. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining. Over to you, Chairman. Thank you.
Right. Thank you all. Thank you all of you. We meet again in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you.